Hello and welcome to my 2020 bullet journal setup. I am working out of an old, beat up Scribbles that matter. So I did start this journal in 2019, but it was in the middle of the year in June. So I have plenty of this book left over. I'm not going to start a new book just for 2020. So I will be utilizing the rest of this space because that would be silly not to. So I have just a few spreads that I still need to make for the end of the year before I get into the real 2020 setup. At the end of the month, I normally do a monthly review, but since it's the end of the year, I decided to just make a page for my December memories and then do a full year review on the next page over. I'm using my Tombow Fudenosuke in the soft tip, and you can see that I definitely started erasing my pencil lines way too early and I ended up with smearing, so I'm going over that really quickly with whiteout. You'll notice that that's a common thing this video. I end up smearing a lot and having to go back and white things out because I'm too impatient. So if you learn one thing from this video, please let your pens dry before you try erasing any pencil lines underneath because it just makes a mess and it's so much more work. So this is my cover page. I just did something really simple. You could see from my 2019 setup, I did pretty much the same thing. But this time I'm adding in a little doodle that I was inspired by a photo on either Pinterest or Instagram. I'm not sure. A lot of the things in my bullet journal are inspiration from a bunch of other people. And then I also have create on the bottom of the page, which is my word of the year. So going into my future log, I'm doing something a little bit different, something I've never done before. I'm going to do a Dutch store style. I've never seen it where they cut out like a top portion or bottom portion of the page, and I discovered why in this because it's very hard to cut along the seam and you end up with a really awkward little tab thing. So it's not the prettiest, but it works for what I wanted, which was just to be able to show the future log title across all of my months because I'm splitting my pages into 2 months per page, which means I end up with 6 different pages of months. So I'm just doing a very simple layout. My future log is something that I've kind of figured out what works for me over the past couple of years, and I found that I really like seeing the full layout of the month, but I also like having plenty of space for any tasks that need to be done or events that are occurring in each month. So going back with my Tombow pen, I end up thickening these lines later because I wanted them a little bit bolder, but I don't have a pen that's a little bit bolder, so I will go back to that soon. So then I'm going in with the Zebra Mildliner brush pens, and one of my caps decided to be rude. What I'm doing with these colors here is I sort of split it up based on the seasons, so I kind of tried to represent what I thought each season was out of the limited color selection that I have. Thinking back on it, I probably should have just done it by quarters because I'm setting up a goal system that's quarterly and it probably would have made more sense. And then it's not really drying as quickly as I thought, so I'm going over and writing in the month titles. And then this happened. And I will recognize it in like a minute. Ready? Oh, there it is. I realize I wrote June. I have no idea why I wrote June instead of April here. I don't know what I was thinking. But what's convenient about this Dutch door style that I've never done before is I now have scratch paper that I can cut out to cover things up, which I've never done before either. Normally I don't make this big of a mistake, or normally I don't really care what it looks like, but because this is my setup for, oh yep, pen issues, I don't know what it is with this orange pen that the cap is just not my friend. But yeah, because I'm setting it up and I want it to look nice, I decided to fully cover it up. And again, that will come up more times in this video because I made so many mistakes. And there's me thickening up those lines again because I wanted it a little bit more graphic than it was. So continuing on with the months, I have them properly labeled this time, June in its right place. And then me getting confused about my coloring again because I decided to make it hard on myself. But you know what, it's fine. It's fine, it looks nice, I enjoy it. That's all that really matters in a bullet journal, right? Things don't have to be perfect, they just have to be something that you enjoy. And now for the tedious portion of future logs is writing out all of those dates. I do mess up quite a few times because I hadn't quite figured out the spacing before I started. I just tried to wing it and it didn't work very well. But I got the hang of it eventually, and I have whiteout, and whiteout is my friend. I don't do a year at a glance page mainly because I find that this future log style is more useful to me. I've seen some people who write out their year at a glance and then also put all of the calendars in the future log, and I mean, kudos to them. I am not writing that many dates. Look, more smudges because I am impatient and I don't let things dry, but I think this future log looks really nice and it's a format that I really enjoy. I have plenty of space for all my events and it's very functional for me. So moving on to my goals pages, I have a 2019 goals recap on the left page, which is basically just a space for me to go over things that I accomplished in 2019, see if I met my goals and if I didn't, where I failed and what I can improve on. So I have 4 main categories of goals that I had in 2019, which were language, career, creativity, and fitness. And then I have 2 columns, one for successes and one for failures. So I can go through and analyze each goal specifically, what I did well and what I didn't do so well and what I still need to work on. I'm using a Pentel sign pen in gray and one of my Sakura Pigma Microns, which I've been using previously in this video already. I decided to do a little fancy drop shadow because I wanted the title to stand out a little bit more than the goals that I have written on the page in the same color. Then moving on to the next page, which is my 2020 goals. And here comes that extra paper again because I messed up my spacing. These zebra Mildliner pens are much thicker than I am used to, so I end up taking up a lot more space than I initially planned for. I'm using a little Tombow tape roller. It doesn't always work the best, but it's fine for now. If you have any better options, let me know. And here's where I found out that all of my spacing was kind of wrong. I didn't cut it in the middle for some reason because I was thinking my title would be smaller and I'd have more space on either side. And there I am getting confused again because I felt like I counted wrong again, and it's just because I didn't reach all the way to the bottom like I should have. So I fixed it all. It's now cut evenly down the middle for the actual space I have available to me. And I'm going in and outlining the Mildliner brush pen because it's very hard to see. It's a highlighter, so it's not really meant for actual marker writing because it's very hard to read. So in order to combat that, I just outlined it in pen, and I think it looks really cool. The next spread is my ideas spread, so I have video ideas and gift ideas. Since I do have a booktube channel, I like having a place to write down all of my video ideas so that I can get to them at some point whenever I have time. So I'm just doing a very simple title. I just wrote it and put it in a box with a drop shadow using one of my zebra Mildliners. It's a Gudetama edition, which I absolutely love, and I got it in Japan and it's so cute. And then I have this page just split in half for future video ideas that I may want to do at some point in the future when I have more time, and then top priority ideas, which are the next ones that I want to be making in the near future. And that's it for this page, really. It's just a brain dump page. So going on to my gift ideas page, I have more trouble with my drawings. So I spaced it wrong, and I am cutting out another sheet of paper to cover it up because I have paper left over and I can do that. Also, writing over whiteout is a nightmare with smaller pens. Of course, my mistakes don't end there, and I end up making bits too long and in the wrong places, so going back and fixing that with whiteout because I don't want to cut another piece of paper. And now that we finally have our title, I'm just doing the same thing and adding my little colored in drop shadow with my zebra Mildliner. And this page is just split into 8 with little gift tags. I'm planning to put the person's name that I'm thinking of gift ideas for in each of these tags, but I will be doing that later. And just moving on to the next spread, which is one of my favorite spreads actually. It's my Year in Pixels, except I've made it a reading edition. So a lot of bullet journal people do a Year in Pixels with their mood for the day or the weather, I've also seen. But I decided the one that would be most useful for me would be how many pages I read every day. I did this in 2019 and I really loved it, so I'm bringing it back for 2020 and I'm super excited for it. So each little box represents a day and the color represents how many pages I read, and I can have a really nice overview of how much I've read in different months and like where I started reading more or where I've read less, and it's a lot of interesting information. If you want to see what the 2019 version looked like, here's where I'm at up to the point of filming this video. And then moving into more shorter term spreads, this is my first quarter goal planning. So I said before that I want to try and plan my goals quarterly, and this is my first page of that. I'm doing another sort of drop shadow, but not quite drop shadow. I made it so that the pen was sort of the drop shadow, which was really interesting and something I've never done before, but I think it turned out really cool. So I have 4 categories of goals, and each quarter I'm planning to focus on one of them at a time. So I've made a little box for which goal I will be focusing on for the first quarter. And then underneath it, I made a box for the tasks that I need to accomplish in order to reach my goals. And then at the bottom, I have a little section for the remaining goals, which I've labeled as back burner, and low priority tasks, which are related to those back burner goals, because I don't want to completely ignore my other goals while I'm working towards whatever my focus of the quarter is, but I also don't want to make it like a top priority item to do. So for all of those sorts of tasks, I'm going to write them in that little box. And then going back quickly to my pixel spread, I am coloring in the little boxes in my legend with my Zebra Mildliner brush pens again. I waited enough time so that hopefully they wouldn't smear, and it actually paid off. It's good to be patient. So that's the base of all of my spreads for my 2020 bullet journal setup. And now is the fun part where I pull out all the stickers and go absolutely crazy because I had no control whatsoever. Most of these stickers I got either in Japan or at Michael's, and I basically never use them because I forget that they exist. So I wanted to bring them all out and make sure I actually start using them, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity. And I'm just gonna flip through everything randomly and just start sticking things down. Found another smear that I need to cover up because obviously. And these little puffy fish stickers I got from the Osaka Aquarium in Japan, and I end up using this entire sheet. I have no idea why. I don't know what prompted it, but I decided to just use everything, so it gets very fishy up in here, which I love because I love fish. This big sticker pack is from Michael's. These Sakura stickers are also from Daiso, and they're an absolute pain to get off. I think they're gorgeous because they're a sort of transparent paper texture, but they are so awful to get off of that sticker page. It's ridiculous. I struggled with that for ages. Going back and fixing a few things with the writing, I do that quite often actually throughout this whole sticker process. And look, that sticker page is almost empty. So these little foiled Sakura stickers are from Daiso, I believe. I love this packet of little Sakura stickers because there's a bunch of different cats on them as well, and they're like gold foiled and they're so pretty. And then back to the really terrible, I think, yeah. You can see me struggle with that one for a while. And then a final flip through before I fill everything out. This is what my 2020 bullet journal setup looks like. And then just for fun, so you can see everything in action, here's a flip through of my spreads once they've been fully filled in. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I will see you later. Bye!